Hey, Friday afternoon. Man, I got too many things going on. I got to tell you. Friday afternoon. I should have probably just zoned in on my own face, but I got my man here, Peter Dunsworth. I love Peter. Um, Friday afternoon, December the what is it, Peter? Help me out, man. I got
think
the
it's
month
Friday
right.
the 13th where you are.
There we go. And it's Saturday the 14th of December in beautiful Australia. Peter, how are you, buddy? I was
You know what?
really looking forward to this and looking forward to catching up. I haven't spoken to you in about a month. How are you?
You know what? Life is beautiful. Never seen it brighter. It's morning in America, and the rest of the world's going to benefit. So I think we're in a unique spot right now.
You know what? You have been one of the most patriotic non-Americans that I know, and which is often the case. Most of my European friends and people that live outside of America, they actually are more American than most Americans, man. Y'all really know what we have the opportunity to do and could do relative to what you guys are currently experiencing. I mean, what's going on in the UK right now is a shame. It's horrible.
I think there's a sense from a lot of your friends around the world. It's what we don't have that it lets us appreciate what you do have. And when you're, forest for the trees, can't see things when you're in it. But to me, America, still represents hope and opportunity for the rest of the world. But and this is where one thing that we've really connected on is, to me, Bitcoin represents hope and opportunity wherever you are in the world. So for that reason, I think sometimes when you're in something, you don't appreciate how good it is. You need to step away from it to see how good you got it.
Yeah, it's very easy to take everything for advantage. I think the last 40 years, not to get political, because this should be a really pumped up show. We won. I mean, I remember you November the 3rd or so having a conversation with you, and you're like, "Bro, I sure hope you win, because if we're not, like, you were talking about, hey, I might need to get out of here."
Yeah.
And I was saying the same thing. Hey, I might need to get out of here. My solution was go to Moscow. I still think Moscow would be a great place to go to for 3 or 4 years. It seems very sane to me. I mean, really.
Yeah.
But here we are, man. We didn't just win. We destroyed the other team. I mean, they're dropping like flies. The moment that happened, I went online and went, man, there's going to be a lot of fatal accidents between now and next March. And I think we're going to see an acceleration of the most bizarre accidents we've heard. Crimes, events where major people just disappear off the face of the map. And I think it's because I think there's just too much from the past that got us here. It's becoming very clear that whoever got us here, that group of people and whoever voted for them, they either were so malignantly gross negligent, which makes them just complete buffoons, or they were in fact just total criminal. Pick one, but it has to be one, because this is systemic what's going on here. I think what the new administration is discovering right now, they're like, whoa, it's way worse than we thought it was.
That's disappointing to hear. But on a side note, which, not to make light of your point, because I think it's dramatic, but it's quite real. Do you know what the most dangerous profession in the world is?
Is it doctors or politicians? What is it?
No, being a Chinese billionaire.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
The percentage rate of death for being a Chinese billionaire is off the charts. And to your point about accidents and all sorts of stuff, there was a Chinese billionaire who was holidaying in Europe a couple of years ago, fell off a 3-foot wall and died. Like, that's the part of the cycle where we're in. And this is where I really hope it's not as bad as we think it is, because I look at my day-to-day in TradFi land, and I've given up on looking at and using all of the metrics that they give us because they've all been politicized. And sort of the three major things I look at.
There isn't a number that makes any sense anymore. They're all revisable.
Yeah, and to that old joke about how do you know you've got a good accountant, just ask him what 1 + 1 is. If he's any good, he'll close the blinds, he'll whisper in your ear, what do you want it to be? This is what all of our government agencies are basically giving us. They're taking direction from the politicians as to what needs to get delivered to appease the political class, not actually give us the numbers we need to run the place effectively. And this is where we've had a breakdown in the inflation numbers. The inflation numbers are just total hogwash. The unemployment numbers back in the midterms, I don't know if you remember June 2022, I was sitting there thinking, we're in a recession. Like, we are absolutely in a recession, but they redefined what a recession was. They said, no, it's not 2 negative quarters. Now, for my entire life, a recession's been classified as 2 negative quarters. Now they throw in this qualifier that you've got to have negative unemployment or, bad unemployment numbers to go along with that. And in June, they said there was no unemployment. Anyway, the midterms happened in October. Fast forward to December, and the Philly Fed readjust the June unemployment numbers upwards by 1.1 million. I'm sitting there thinking, oh, that's the last straw for me. Like, this is all nonsense. This is kabuki theater. They're just sitting there telling us what they want us to hear. And for me, I can't play straight in a world that's so crooked. We're making decisions for people's lives, for capital allocation that, is meant to improve people's lives. And they're giving us numbers that we're meant to be using. And I hear the argument that people say, oh, but, yeah, sure, the numbers are cooked and the rest of it, but you can decipher, from the small changes what's happening. And it's like, I just want a straight answer. Just tell me how it is. Like, let me make the decisions based on what the numbers are, not what you think I want to hear. You're on mute.
Yeah, sorry, I'm having a little speaker problem, but it's staggering that we let it get this far. But I think for the first time, Peter, and I would actually suggest that Bitcoin has something to do with this. We now have something to compare transparency to something that's not.
Yeah.
And pretty much it's as opaque as you could imagine. I just got off the phone with someone that was going to do some advertising with somebody, spend 20 or 30 grand in a month, and but they won't show you any analytics. He's like, hey, what do you think I should do? I'm like, dude, no verification, no dealio. Like, this is the age of prove it. You get paid if you do it, and everything else is bullshit. So I really am excited about this era. I mean, to bring it to the point, Bitcoin's transparency, its ability to really perform in such a superior way. I now see Saylor not only adopting the Bitcoin, hey, I'm going to do the treasury play, but he's adopting all the principles of Bitcoin also, which are, hey, I'm buying $2.5 billion today. You guys want to front run me? Go ahead. If you want to short me, by the way, the volatility is awesome. You can go do that too. I think in fact, I challenge every CEO of every public company in the world, really, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, you guys really give you front row. Act within that type of transparency, or the transparency that won this election. Half those companies that go bankrupt tomorrow, man. The CEOs couldn't even do that function. They could not show up and pitch the way Saylor does without a script, much less do it for 2 hours.
Yeah, he sort of epitomizes, and I'm reluctant to use this term, but it is radical transparency.
Yeah.
He'll tell you exactly what he's going to do. He'll tell you exactly what he's going to do. You can plan accordingly. You can try and limit his function. You can try and short the stock. You can try and undermine him, and he's still going to win. And I look at that and think that's because he's backed by Bitcoin, and Bitcoin can't lose.
You got to keep going for me. I'm changing microphones.
Yeah, sure thing.
And I agree, Peter. I
I,
agree.
I look at this and I think the other interesting thing for me about MicroStrategy is I think it's fair to say, Gary, you've been a wonderful advocate for Bitcoin, one of our best. And I think if we all had to choose a fighter to represent us, Michael Saylor would be the one we want. I think he represents an outstanding brain who is his understanding of financial markets, listed markets, the ability to raise capital on both sides of the balance sheet, and his understanding of Bitcoin. I look at this and think, from a really interesting perspective, I think MicroStrategy is path dependent to become the biggest company on earth. I don't know how anyone supersedes that position from him. And because he doesn't have a sizable business, and it's really just a side note to the real business, which is the treasury company, the way his balance sheet is structured, the way his corporate entity functions, if Apple and Microsoft wanted to do this full bore, because they've actually got other assets on their balance sheet, they're never going to be able to compete with the volatility that's generated from MicroStrategy. So I'm like, it's what you're getting down is basically a dumbed down version of MicroStrategy if they ever try to compete with him on this. And this is why I think he understands and is happy to promote everyone trying it, because Bitcoin will improve their outcome dramatically, but no one will ever be able to compete with MicroStrategy in that capacity.
I agree. This Bitcoin wins two battles. Sorry for the confusion there, but Bitcoin wins two battles. It wins the first battle of being first and most secure. I can't remember another business that was this first and most secure. Like Google was what, number 12, number 8? They were not first.
Yeah.
No way. I've never invested anything first. I've never had an idea that was first. I hate those ideas, man. Those ideas. Andreessen Horowitz the other night was interviewed, and he said, of all our investments, can't remember many that we lost because we were late. But I can remember a ton of them where we were just way too early. We were a cycle too early. Yeah. Right? And Bitcoin, however, is first, most formidable, King freaking Kong, man. I mean, I'm not as smart as Saylor's from the engineering perspective, but on a supply and demand, pure on economic stream of consciousness, it's dawned on me I've never even seen a product like this or any other entity or thing, much less be able to invest in it. And then I see Saylor deploying he's first on this strategy. First is best here too. It's a moat. It's not about price either. Very important. It is not about price. Whales could have done this. There's bigger players 5 years ago that could have done this, and they did not. Right?
That's right. And that first to market is really important. And what Saylor with this radical transparency is doing, which I find breathtaking, and I'm hoping it's contagious across corporate America, is
160 companies have already filed to do this public. There's 80 that already have the ability. That will grow. That was before Grant. So there's $1 billion right there. Grant started at 0. First thing was walked out of the office. Okay, let's do 87. I said, no, bro, let's do $1 billion, man. You could do 10 of these packages, $100 million each, 10 packages, bang, 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 get them all out. And what we need also the Bitcoin whales to go, oh, wow, that's actually a good vehicle for my family. Mm-hmm. The Bitcoin whale, 40-year-old guy, it's cool. I'm going to be forever a Bitcoin whaler, but 2050, man, your family might want some other assets, I mean, it's just like 2050 is a long time from now for Bitcoin to be in. This is the juicy fat of the cut here. I mean, to me, this is the juiciest piece of Bitcoin. I'm sorry I'm so excited now. We're bouncing around, but we're such good friends that we can all reel back. The risk reward here is stupid, man.
That's what I think too.
It is near zero.
Yeah.
Risk reward here is literally near zero. If I got one half of what Saylor says, he 45%. If I get 20% under this scenario of risk, I think I'm being paid 10x too much.
Yeah, I do too. And this is the funny thing about this, sort of watching this market for the last 10 years. We've given advice on this for 8 years. And the advice started out with, hey, only put in what you're prepared to lose, 2%, that represents a bad day in the market. Now I'm like, look, you just need to put in as much as you can. And, you know, if you can't sleep at night, then you need to study harder to figure out why you're not sleeping. Because once you understand it, this is, I wouldn't say a cure-all, but this is the best risk-adjusted return I see in the 10 years I've been looking at this. Because and this is where, you know, you should take enormous credit for this with your support and what you've been able to achieve in the political sense. The new administration coming in is the first government actively supportive of Bitcoin across the globe. We've never had this before. Now all of a sudden it's completely de-risked the opportunity in front of us. But the tailwinds, the only thing I start to get jittery about is, what am I missing here? I can't see any of, like, there's no headwinds. That's the problem.
Yeah, for those in the audience that or listening, that for any business guy that's been around a long time, as much as you might want to go pitch to a big capital guy, we're the best and we have a moat and there's no risk. We all know, oh, there's monster risk. Okay, he dies of a major coronary tomorrow morning, like that's risk to him and his family and any investment he's got. It slows things down. It messes things up. I agree, dude. I keep asking myself how. One, if I talk to my TradFi guys, I have to actually bring all my energy down. Yep. Otherwise, I'll freak them out.
Yep.
Right. And I got to really think about my audience very, very carefully. This has been the problem. Like, you don't pitch to Grant the same way you would pitch to me, right?
Yeah.
It's very different. Yeah, risk adjusted. I mean, for those, that is the thing. Like, this is the Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett was totally vulture. Total vulture, looking for problems. He's looking for one right now. And I think this Bitcoin thing, when you say, hey, it's not a panacea, I'm not so sure. Because I'm pretty sure I'm going to end up finding the right woman finally in my life because of this bloody community.
Yeah.
Like, I've met so many cool people. I'm like, hell, I'm probably going to meet my next wife here. So it's made me younger, funner. My world has exploded in 3 years, man. Like I have met a lot of people now. I mean, somebody from XRP was hassling me last night because I've given them a lot of room on these shows. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I just don't get it, man. And like, it's not my problem to get it. Like, if you can't sell me, you can't sell me. And I'm not, people can do what they want. It doesn't fit my criteria. And somebody asked me about Brad, and I said, well, I think he had a really good PR. I think XRP had an awesome PR opportunity, and the stock price is down. Doesn't look good. So these are the facts. And if Brad wants to come on and have a chat with me, I mean, the whole community is like, Brad would never waste time with you. I'm like, whoa, dude, I just spent 4 or 5 hours with Saylor, and we have $1 billion real estate deal. Pretty sure I can meet with a lot of people, but I understand Brad's too busy. I was actually trying to help, because I want to understand how these guys look at business, but also help the 1,100 people see the difference between US dollar, ExxonMobil, Philip Morris, and Bitcoin, right? Or a savings account and a 401. Anyway, I think people are getting more educated on finance and other things all around Bitcoin. It has some serious gravity here. I can't really explain it, but I know you know what I'm talking about, where it's bringing a lot of different people together.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. There are so many things I want to respond to with what you said. The interesting thing for me is the energy and who you're talking to is really important to pitch at that level. And because Bitcoin offers such a range of topics to go after and different energy levels. You really need to understand your audience. That's the most critical thing to think of. And for me, a great way of sort of triangulating on where someone is at. I ask invasive questions all day because basically that's what I do, give investment advice. I want to understand the psychology of people before we give them any investments. But a great way of understanding where people are at, I find, is to ask them 2 questions. What's your best and worst investment and why? And then you get an understanding of, are they a property guy? Are they a commodities guy? Are they a share guy? Like what are the good things, bad things that they've experienced? Because Bitcoin offers a spectrum that can outperform any other asset. So you have the talking points on whether it's better than property, better than shares, better than anything else. And you come to the realization that you need to pitch things that are going to be in their wheelhouse of understanding that gets them thinking. And then the other thing that sort of I mentioned yesterday, which I just don't think a lot of people have really cottoned onto yet, to your point where you want to buy Bitcoin, you want to buy the protocol. Bitcoin is equity participation with your savings in the entire economy. And I look at that and I think, to the previous point you raised, this is the best risk-adjusted return I've seen in my period watching Bitcoin. And the number one problem with Bitcoin is that it triggers the red flag that we've all heard, and it's probably our first financial lesson that we got, which was, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So we sit there and say, hey, this is a panacea, this solves all your problems, blah, blah, blah. Immediately we've lost them because it triggers that fight or flight response that they were taught too good to be true, got to leave. And they don't do the work on it. And this is where, if you can get equity participation in all future economic endeavor of mankind through savings, this breaks the brain. That's a juxtaposition right there. That sounds like an oxymoron, but it actually is the truth.
For the people in the audience, when you say equity participation, what do you mean?
I firmly believe that we will move to a world that runs on Bitcoin. Every business will run on Bitcoin. Everything will run on Bitcoin from an economic perspective. Our entire financial systems will run on Bitcoin, because if we take a look at what the problem is now, and this will probably be a slightly extended response, sorry for the length of it, but
please.
To get to the answer of it.
No, take your time, Peter. It's awesome. You got a lot of great. In fact, it's okay if you want to back up and give the people that don't know you kind of your background, because you have a deep background in managing risk, right? So take all the time you need, man.
Okay. So it starts with the problem that I guess the economists want to acknowledge right now, in that we've got a debt problem. And we don't really have a debt problem. We have more of a collateral problem. And I'll just explain that. Say someone owes me $100. If I can extract $100 worth of something from them, then I don't have a debt problem with that person, because I take their collateral and I go and sell it and I recover what is owed to me. And the world is thinking that we've got a debt problem because there's no way we can pay our debts back. But the real problem is that we have no collateral against the debt that's been issued. And we've been working this fractional reserve banking system that creates credit out of thin air for the last 50 years, really. We've gone off the gold standard. And the problem with the fractional reserve banking system is that it's initially sold to us as a way to provide greater flexibility and more stability in markets. But like a drug, it gets abused, and then more and more debt builds up in the system. And the debt that was to provide stability and security for you becomes an existential risk to you, and depletes and weakens the overall system. And we're at the stage that we've gone well past the ability for debt to help us grow the economy and provide stability. And we're now at the point where the debt that we hold is an existential threat to us, and there's no collateral, there's no there to recover basically what is owed to us. And I look at that, and we're working with an under-collateralized banking system right now, meaning that we've fractionally reserved X amount, 10x the amount of debt to what the actual collateral is. I look at Bitcoin and I think Bitcoin, by its very definition, has to run on an under-collateralized system. And this is where, if you've done lending in the traditional world, you go to the bank, you put 20% down for a property and they'll lend you 80% of it. So they're basically lending you 4 times the amount of equity that you've put in. Alternatively, when you go and use Bitcoin as collateral and you borrow on your Bitcoin, they're going to lend you 50% of that as a loan. They're not going to lend you 400% of the Bitcoin because it's wildly volatile. Now, if we could get a term loan, and this is what Saylor's been able to do, he can borrow a lot more, and you could borrow a lot more and do the fractional reserve banking on Bitcoin, but that's not how that system operates. And so my conjecture is Bitcoin will be, and I believe it is, the pristine collateral of the globe. This will underpin our entire financial banking system, our entire financial economic system. And as such, in order to do that in an under-collateralized way, Bitcoin will need to grow from a $2 trillion asset to a $10,000 trillion asset, so that all of that lending and debt and credit is created in the system is actually smaller than the total collateral in the system. Whereas at the moment, the credit that we've got in the system is substantially multiples more of the collateral that we've got in the system. So it's another complete inversion to the way we think about how finance should be run. But to me, a system is going to be stable that is under-collateralized rather than over-collateralized by its very nature. I look at this in simple, say, geometric terms, and I think, what is going to be more stable? A pyramid where the widest point of the pyramid is at the bottom, or the existing banking system that we have where there's a tiny little tip and it's in an inverted pyramid? Clearly that inverted pyramid will fall over, and the secure structure is going to be the one that has the biggest base. So I think we've got that. That is path dependent through time. We are going to see that happen slowly over time. It might take 20 years, 50 years, whatever it might be, but we are going to get to a point where we're going to go to an under-collateralized system. And this is where, when you're saving in Bitcoin and not spending it, you're actually participating in the economic output of everyone that's using that system. And as more and more people use it, what we're effectively getting is equity participation in the economy by saving.
And but equity participation means you get a bigger upside gain, right? Like, how would it be different than owning IBM stock or Amazon stock? Having like your equity participation, you're involved, you're either holding or you're not holding, right? That's what you're saying.
Correct.
And you're enjoying the benefits of that in a much greater way. For instance, I have been underpaid probably 40 years of my life. And then on three events, I'm grossly overpaid. Right? And that's from the equity. That's why I'm doing this. I can't buy a car. And then all of a sudden I can buy a jet. And then I go build another business. That's having equity participation. Now, it's extremely risky doing this stuff. That's, 98% of that equity goes away.
Mm-hmm.
But it is fabulous. You get fabulously wealthy from it. I think only probably parallel to Bitcoin. In fact, I think I'm going to wake up and realize, I think I am waking up to realize that the equity participation that Peter's talking about and risk adjusted, I think I'm going to look back at all the businesses I've ever built and thought, I worked too hard to do all that. Yeah. It was a lot of work. A lot of work, man, compared to this.
Well, this is where all of a sudden any future endeavors that you take on or I take on is colored by a very different set of criteria and hurdle rates that we never had previously. All of a sudden, I don't know about you, but I'm married to my Bitcoin. I don't want to give it up for anything. And there needs to be an outstanding or exceptional opportunity that is something I just have to have in order to part with it. And this is where I was talking to a VC guy who said, he's heavily down the Bitcoin rabbit hole. He's just done a bit of work. We've had a great discussion. He said, Pete, I assess businesses on a day-to-day basis, and Bitcoin's ruined me. He said, for starters, I need a risk-free return of 50% to beat Bitcoin. And then to have a commensurate level of risk on the investment that I'm going to take, I need it to, have a CAGR of 80. So how many opportunities are there out there at the moment that give you that kind of return? It's just basically very few opportunities come across your desk with that level of opportunity that exceeds Bitcoin, which is what I believe risk-free.
Yeah. Well, and it gets back to your, hey, if it's too good to be true kind of thing. I could just tell when I looked at my brother one day and I said, Grant, if you hold it for 4 years, bro, no human being in history has lost money on Bitcoin. And it's not true that the longer you hold real estate, that there are no losers. But that was very hard for him to understand. One, that he didn't have to hold it 10 years like he does. All these real estate funds are 10 years, 10 plus 10. This is basically, in my calculus, you and I have a lot of different points of going, okay, why would I invest any money over here in XYZ midstream company? See, this is what I don't understand about people that have been here a long time. I met a guy last night bragging about how much Bitcoin he had. And I said, well, what's your average cost, dude? I don't care how much you have. I want to know what your average cost is. Well, I quit buying in 2013. 2016. One, he didn't even know what his average cost was, or he would have answered the question that I asked. Two, that he stopped buying in 2016. Like I said, I'll put my bag against yours right fucking now, dude. Right now. Let's roll it, ping pong boy. Because the truth is, there's no way he doesn't understand something about Bitcoin. Yep. No way. He grossly misunderstands Bitcoin. I keep having this comment, and you've been around long enough, and I do not mean any disrespect to anyone that came before me and really got into it. And I started getting heavy into Bitcoin financially in 20. I don't care how long I've been here. When did I go deep and wide? I think more money is going to be made in this cycle and retained than all the money that was made prior.
Agreed.
Look how quick that was. I agree.
Yeah.
He's been around. How long have you been around this space, man?
I first heard of it in 2011 and wasn't smart enough to act on my brother's advice. As a family, we bought some in 2013 and personally started giving advice on it in 2016. So, but that by its very nature seems perfectly aligned with my thoughts on that. And to be fair to the OG guys, they were fighting different battles at the time. There was that 2013 era, like where they were trying to get, 2011 to 2013, they were trying to get it into people's hands. You had Bitcoin Faucet that they were giving it away for free. To be fair, the person who really understood Bitcoin the deepest and the earliest was Hal Finney, who said within, minutes of the protocol being around, this thing could be $10 million a coin. And might have been flippant with it and the rest of it, but he understood it. But there were different iterations of it. You had a lot of entrepreneurs in the space who had huge bags of Bitcoin and wanted to work in Bitcoin, but they were prepared to sell their Bitcoin in order to see their company succeed, which was a catastrophic error.
Catastrophic, man. It's the piece nobody talks about. Very few people talk about how much money was lost. But sometimes you have to just admit that you found a golden goose. You don't have to make it about anything other than, oh, wow, I have good karma, dude. I fell in the Bitcoin hole. That does not make you a rocket scientist, an engineer, or a CEO. Yeah. Right? And I think that's the mistake. That's why I'm really happy to see like me and other people able to get other TradFi guys in here that are going to start blending the business together, because one, I do think there's some people in Bitcoin that need it, but more important, I think the Bitcoin will help many industries. We don't really need real estate, but and I know real estate's going to be packaged with Bitcoin in 1,000 different ways. The question is going to be who's going to do it first and do it properly. And then I think there's different offerings that are going to be made for different players. Like you and I, we might, do a Bitcoin. Like I would like to, my brother had done this differently, but this isn't his community. So I'll take a slightly different approach because I think that his tool of 15 million into Bitcoin and then attached to 85 or 87 million of cash, it's a great strategy. It is.
Yep.
It's beautiful. And I had to push him into no cash distributions, dude. This is a Bitcoin distribution play. But I do think there's a window just to describe the differences in the value chain. I think that there's whales out there that don't want to have a liquidation event. They want to make sure everything's buttoned down, and they want to get paid for their best collateral on the planet. See, I would use Bitcoin. I'd put 10 to 30,000 Bitcoin in a fund. Still need somebody to locate the properties. I need a very smart cat to find the right properties. But you just sit there as a predator fund, man. Yeah. I'm trying to buy stuff on Sunday before it goes to the bank on Monday morning. Yeah. I think that's a monster opportunity, and it accelerates Bitcoin's influence into the entire ecosphere. We should, if I was going to do another business, this would be but I would do it to go, hey, we're going to jam Bitcoin right up real estate's ass now. I mean, really push on it hard, strategically, but also those long-term Bitcoin holders, in 2050, I'm not sure I want my kids just to have that. Right?
Yeah.
Like I have to think beyond that. This cycle is going to be juicy, contrary to all the modelers who say, hey, we're depreciating in return. I'm like, you remove the entire risk, bro. What do you mean we're flattening out? Did you remove the risk component from that damn chart? No, you didn't. It's not even considered.
Yeah.
And the second thing, this thing should break every fucking model.
Yeah, it will. It will.
It will, man. Every price is wrong.
Has to. It's a forcing function, and this is where I'm not sure if you saw the PE ratio of the forward-looking earnings for Microstrategy.
Yeah.
So it looks like it's trading at a 0.8 times multiple. 0.8, the fastest growing company in the S&P 500.
What does NVIDIA trade
at? Between 30 and 50.
Yeah.
So I look at this.
Hey, let's go to that. How well do you know the MicroStrategy? Because I think it's a very, very good laboratory experiment here.
So do I.
I've been watching it a lot.
I wouldn't say well, but I'm learning, and I've spoken to a few of the True North guys. I've got to say I really appreciate what they do. Ben Workman, Dan Hillary, I've spoken to a few times. Ryquant, I find him very, very amusing, and he's off all socials at the moment, but I wish him well.
Who is that? Ryan, that guy. Yeah.
Ryan McGuinness.
Yeah.
Great guy and incredibly invaluable in agitating and helping everyone understand what he understands. And this is where, to me, MicroStrategy is the most misunderstood stock in the world. And the problem why TradFi has such a big issue with it is because MicroStrategy is built on the primary, which is Bitcoin. And if you don't understand the primary, you're not going to understand the derivative, which is MicroStrategy. And I use those terms loosely, but no one in TradFi land really understands it because Saylor's bringing Bitcoin and those paradigm shifting thoughts or paradigm breaking terms to traditional markets. In that, the one that instantly comes to mind is he's issuing stock, he's diluting you, but it's Bitcoin accretive. Well, no one in TradFi land understands what Bitcoin accretive means. They just hear dilution and instantly dismiss it that, oh, he's going to sell $42 billion of stock and debt, and that sounds bad. Therein lies the opportunity. And I look at, where Bitcoin is, how his corporate balance sheet's structured. And to me, that's the greatest layup in TradFi land.
Has it convinced you to acquire any? Do you have a position in any of the, or is that, if it's sacred question, I'm sorry.
No, not at all. I'm completely open book with that. And I think I shared with you in our last conversation that wasn't sort of televised, that had a conversation with my wife about selling the home. It felt like the Australian property market's very toppy. Turns out I was right.
Dead on right.
Yep. And
painfully
I feel like
right.
I feel like we got out at just the right time. We settled on that property 2 weeks ago, and promise to my wife was we won't buy any more Bitcoin. I'll just put together an equities portfolio. And so it just went into Microstrategy.
Nice. I think she might have given you a gift there, buddy.
That's what I think too. So I would have preferred Bitcoin, but I'm not upset with Microstrategy. And I think TradFi land and all that it brings with it actually opens up a whole host of opportunities, which I've got to say I've spent a lot of time looking at, because what Microstrategy is doing, the volatility that's harnessing, and the ability to create income off the back of that volatility will completely redefine portfolio allocation and portfolio construction and asset allocation for all families, all high net worth, family offices, mums and dad, retail investors. The changes that this is going to bring through to everyone's portfolio once they understand it is going to be breathtaking, the depth and breadth of influence that this is going to have. And I just feel incredibly lucky that I understand the primary better than any other investment advisor. So we can get ahead of what the derivative is going to mean for client portfolios and the rest of it. And this is where, just on a really, really high level, to your point about sort of, you talked about earning nothing, and then you have the huge equity payouts where you're way overpaid. That's something that we've tried to construct for clients, where we want to have focus on total returns, not developing an income stream, because the income stream, what you're really foregoing is total return. And you're very fortunate, because when you're earning nothing in income, you're getting taxed at the highest rate on your income, and those huge equity payouts are typically at the most tax effective rates because it's capital gains rather than income. And we've had a focus on total returns for a long, long time, but a lot of our clients are older. They want the peace of mind and the security. And I say that in inverted commas because there's no such thing as security of your income. It's just it's a furphy, it's a falsehood that people, rest their head on, but they don't really understand that there's no peace of mind with the income, because the income is nowhere near as secure as people believe it to be. If they understood what the real risks in the market were, they'd just focus on total return all the time. But it's just like, they don't want to deal with the volatility. They want the perception that their portfolio is safe and risk-free because they're getting an income. But to tie this into a bow, the volatility that Microstrategy spews out is the ability to harness that and then have effectively the same income outcomes of a 60-40 portfolio, but you only have to allocate 5% of your total assets to it. And it can achieve the same income that a typical 40% of your total portfolio bond allocation would achieve. So all of a sudden, it's a completely outsized income return. And I sort of say this to bring it up, that I still don't want to do that. But if clients have to do it, then that's an opportunity for them to have a much greater weighting to the growth stocks, whether it's Bitcoin, MicroStrategy, everything else.
Why wouldn't you want them to do it?
Because they're getting a less return overall.
Oh, if they have to take the distribution.
If they take the income, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. See, I think the great hack is, hey, don't take the distribution, dude. What are you doing? Go to work.
Yeah.
Why are you taking the distribution? You're being lazy. You're taking a distribution from an investment vehicle and then spending it. Like, that's stupid.
I
I'm
agree.
sorry, it's stupid. Okay, like people just need to, like, now if you tell me, hey, look, it's not stupid. I have medical bills to pay. Oh, that's a different issue.
Mm,
Okay, we can address that issue, but again, your house is not your investment. Like it's not an investment because it's very rare that you can lean on it when you really need to.
correct. Like the banks are happy to give you money when you don't need it. That's why it's always good to ask them when you don't, because the
Yeah,
second
and
you
when
need it and
they,
you go to the bank, they're not going to give it to you.
yeah, and a little advice, because people think I'm crazy. If someone offers you money at a really cheap interest rate, you just say, yes, sir, Bob, where can I sign? And that's the MicroStrategy play. I mean, I have these people going absolutely crazy on NAV. Let's talk about two
Mm,
things.
yeah.
NAV, well, we started this program, what, an hour ago, and you made the comment, you're like, uh-oh. You were like, man, I am having some freaky weird issues today. Why the, see, this is called redundancy. You're going to like this, man. All right. Fuck you, camera. Just got another one. Pop. See you later. Anyway, see, that's redundancy. That cost me $10, but it's good to have instead of me having to little insurance package. Where was I headed? First off, you started this conversation saying, hey, none of these numbers make any sense. They're lies, right? Um, so that means that it's probably a lot of consolidating positions is a bad thing. That's where all the wealth is made.
Mm-hmm.
Your wife, here's a good example where your wife's like, hey, I don't care how great it is, dude. Like we have too much of it now. There's no reason to get her freaked out. You then have a new tool, MSTR. Isn't that interesting, dude? You have something you can get your family in. She's sleeping better at night, and you probably, acquire a little more risk,
Yep.
but in a very, I think, well packaged way. The zero sum game that I see Bitcoin having in the universe is being replicated by Michael.
Yeah.
No
Agreed.
one's getting hurt, dude.
Correct.
There is one person getting hurt between Saylor, shareholders, bankers. Hey, knock it off. There's one guy getting hurt. Dude. It's the guy that got left behind on the Bitcoin or the MSTR train. He just
Yeah.
chose not to get on the train. He's going to get slaughtered. Non-participation is a fatal event in this game.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
nobody gets hurt. Nobody gets hurt in this industry. Everyone can win, man.
This is where, like a broader point to that I think Bitcoin has to grow to call it a $10,000 trillion industry in its own right, the asset itself, because two things. Firstly, Wall Street needs something to bet on and trade, and they trade on volatility. There's no more volatile asset than Bitcoin. Michael's basically leveraged that, so now that's him. But leveraging Bitcoin and trading on Bitcoin, to that old adage that, a lot of my father's mates tell me that, oh, you can't live in a Bitcoin. That's precisely the point. The fact that you can't live in it and you can financialize it is the very reason why this is going to grow to be the biggest asset class in the world. Because Larry Fink tried that mortgage-backed security market from the 1980s. He bled that, like literally squeezed every drop out of it. It led to blowing up the world with the GFC. And I'm not having a go at Gary. It was just, Larry. It was just market forces that led to that. Now, what Wall Street wants is an asset that they can financialize that isn't going to have an impact on cost of living. It's not going to affect Main Street. And here we have Bitcoin. It's a completely digital asset. It's not going to hurt anyone. The only person who gets hurt, to your point, is the person who's not going to buy some. And everyone gets it at the price they deserve. And to me, I look at this and think it's an IQ test. If you get it, you just buy it. And if you don't, well, you just wait until one of three things happens. You get so fearful of missing out that you buy some. You get so greedy that you're missing out that you buy some, or you see your mates getting fabulously rich beside you and you're envious of their wealth and you think, stuff it, I'm going to have some of that too.
Yeah, the funny thing is, it's not difficult to understand. And Bitcoin is very, very simple to understand. I don't really get it. I think what is difficult is you have to be willing to look at the world that you live in and realize, wow, you have no clue what's happening. Everything is bullshit. There's literally no transparency anywhere. I mean, just go tell me how much money Visa makes from fraud. Like, it's ridiculous. You can't even find it anywhere. Let's go to, so we have Bitcoin is breaking the paradigm of a zero sum game, which is I sell something to you, you have to go into debt to buy it. That's a zero sum game. Okay, that he's losing for me. I would maintain home ownership is one of the biggest lies ever perpetrated on mankind for 100 years. Total banking tool, especially in America, man. We just gobble shit up. We are such freaks of consumption. 72% of people think they own a home, and they think it's an investment, and 70 of the people that force you into buying these things, gentlemen, so that you can go clean leaves off the roof, they are women, and they have a similar behavior of keeping 70% of their cash sitting in a bank account, doing nothing, right? This has been the investment strategy of the world. Women have been controlling most of the dollars in families. Don't bitch at me. This is a reality. And you wonder why 98% of you can't even bury yourself when you die. Something is fatally wrong, right? And that kind of brings me to this, because I spend a lot of time with guys like you and Wall Street, and I have heard this Microstrategy thing pop up. Just to put some frame around it, XRP is $90 to $120 billion. NVIDIA is for a coin business. Bitcoin's $2 trillion. NVIDIA is $3 trillion. MicroStrategy is less than $100 billion valuation. Okay. And this NAV is net asset value for the audience. And the theory is, hey, Gary owns 1,000 Bitcoin, and that's all he owns. That's my net asset value. 1,000 times the price. Saylor owns 400,000 units times X, and they're started claiming 3.5X, 2 point. I'm like, what are you talking about? NAV. NAV is a stupid. Yeah. PE is a stupid number too. EBITDA is a stupid number. They're all stupid numbers, but NAV, and this, I've listened to smart people argue over this. Walk me through your thought on the whole NAV multiple, because I think it's completely meaningless.
I do too, and I think the NAV is the problem that we've got is the NAV doesn't capture or credit Michael's or Saylor's ability to add Bitcoin to the balance sheet. And I think in the last quarter he added something like 60% to his balance sheet. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's give or take 60%. You annualize that growth rate, it's effectively a 3 times. To me, there are many reasons why that NAV doesn't make sense. One of the simple things I've looked at with NAV and think, what if, stocks are forward looking? What if the NAV just represents what the price of Bitcoin is going to be in 12 to 18 months' time? That to me is the simplest solution to what NAV is and why it's trading at a premium. All stocks are forward looking, they're not priced Correct. At today's value, they're priced in 12 to 18 months' time value. So I look at that and think, well, if the NAV of MicroStrategy is trading at 2.5, my expectation is in 12 months that Bitcoin price will be $250,000. And I don't think NAV needs to get that much more complicated. All I know is when it skyrockets, it's an ability to add a lot more Bitcoin to the balance sheet at a discount. And when it goes down, well, it's just adjusting on forward-looking earnings and what the price will be in the future.
Yeah. No, I hear that. I think that is one of the right ways to look at it. But I would actually challenge the whole concept of the way I answer this question to an investor is, well, what do you own? Oh, I own NVIDIA. Okay. Well, what's the net asset value of NVIDIA?
What is it, 100 billion?
Well, the net asset,
Maybe.
I mean, the equity value is 3 trillion, but
Yeah.
what is their NAV? What is their asset?
Yeah.
It most
Yeah.
certainly isn't a billion trillion barrels of oil. That,
No.
by the way, ExxonMobil and they trade above their NAV.
Mm.
Okay, like there is a activity going on, refining information, whether they use it or not. Saylor's using it. I'm just going to move
Yeah.
something, right? But I mean, what is the NAV of any of these companies, man?
Well, this
Like
is
when
where I
you
look
really
at it.
think about it, Microsoft.
I look at that and they're trading at a 50 times NAV. This is where it doesn't make any sense. I think Microstrategy is an undervalued company at a 2.5 times NAV. My expectation is that could go to 10 times NAV easily with a parabolic blow off in Bitcoin, and everyone will be scrambling for it. And I think if you want to look at, what to expect with MicroStrategy and the NAV that it can achieve, all you need to do is look at the listed Bitcoin miners in the last cycle to see how outrageously expensive they were relative to what they were producing. And Michael is a far more efficient Bitcoin miner than the listed miners. So I think if they were achieving a 50x multiple, why can't Saylor do that? Now, technically, he can't because he's at a 50 times multiple. He'll own 100% of the Bitcoin supply. But you see that the value of a NAV at 2.5 can be substantially higher than what it is.
Yeah, I actually don't even think the number's meaningful. Because then you have to be willing to go back to ExxonMobil and go, oh, okay, well, let me strip out all the commodities, the proven reserves, which we don't even know if they're proven or not.
Yeah.
And by the way, proven is different than getting the shit to the market.
Yes.
I mean, Bitcoin, it gets into the market within 2 minutes. We know that you're going to deliver or you're not going to deliver. And if you don't deliver, we'll deliver for you. So ExxonMobil, you can't prove anything about Saudi Aramco.
Yeah.
It's 3 trillion. I think Bitcoin's bigger than Saudi Aramco now. Really, you guys trust their asset reserves? Seriously? What's their NAV? These numbers are stupid, man. Boeing, what is Boeing's NAV?
Yeah.
Or Google. It's a bunch of intelligence. Most of it's probably been stolen. They've got a bunch of software contracts. They've got a bunch of consumers paying them in. It's just a bunch of forward-looking contracts.
It doesn't make any sense.
Dude, none of the numbers make any sense. I have never understood my whole life any of this finance. I go into these companies, I go, let's see, so that guy has $3 billion worth of debt, so he's worth 5? Because he's got 3 billion of debt and he's got 2 billion of energy, and they're like, hey, you're a $5 billion company. I'm like, I think it's a minus $1 billion company. 40 years later, dude, I'm still sitting here going, excuse me, it's a minus $1 billion company. It is not a $5 billion company.
This is where I think it's going to be fun watching traditional metrics applied to MicroStrategy. And the same way that Bitcoin is a forcing function for everything else in the world, MicroStrategy is going to be a forcing function in traditional markets to reprice everything.
Now, everything. I didn't see this coming, dude. It's going to get repriced through this tool.
Yep.
Bitcoin's
so if everyone's upset about their NAV and and their PE ratios and all the rest of it, well, wait till everything gets force function valued against MicroStrategy, because that's the most secure company on earth. I just look at this and think, to me, probably the easiest TradFi investment I can make right now is MicroStrategy, because it's path dependent to become the biggest company on earth. That seems crazy. That's a 30x from here.
Reportedly, someone bought $1 million worth of December 27 $525 calls, paid $40-ish for them. That expires in 13 days. $1 million. That's a decent sized bet, man.
Yep.
The way, like, I look at that bet and go, wow, that's actually a very interesting bet. $41 for 13 days.
Yeah. And this is where all of a sudden, I'll tell you who's one of my favorite risk managers on earth. I'm not sure if you've spent any time listening to him or talking to him, but I had the good fortune of a mate of mine organised a catch up with him this week, was David Dredge.
Don't know him.
I'll send you some stuff on him, but
Love to.
He has the best framework for analysing and accommodating for risk. His work is absolutely brilliant. It's in the same vein as Nassim Taleb and Nouriel Roubini, but it feels like he is the guy in the trenches actually executing all of this, whereas they may be more academic and have written some outstanding pieces on it. And one of the big things that came out of that conversation this week was he was talking to some guys in crypto, talking about how risky Bitcoin is. And he's like, no, Bitcoin's not risky. Bitcoin's got a vol of 90. Like, that's perfectly priced risk. There's no fat tails on Bitcoin. It's perfectly priced for its risk. It's not risky. It's just volatile, and that therein lies the opportunity. And a lot of people still, even TradFi, don't really comprehend that there's a big difference between risk and volatility.
Yeah. I think again, we're coming back to, I think most people misunderstand how real business is done. And some of the stuff that we've read, books that have been like famous authors, a lot of this is bullshit, man. And I think it all comes unwound because now you have this Cinderella. You have Cinderella, man, at the ball, and everybody's looking at her going, whoa, who is this? And the whole table shifting. Don't tell me that can't happen. I mean, it does happen from time to time in history. It seems to be happening right here under our feet, man. I feel so fortunate to be living through this. This is like extremely exciting.
Yeah.
I mean,
one of the things I was hoping to have a chat about was the ability for us to dream big dreams right now with a supportive administration, and think about what are the things what would happen if a government's supportive of this industry rather than a detrimental influence on it. And to me, if we model out how supportive they've been of the US housing industry, what happens if we just had a modicum of that support in Bitcoin, in financing terms, in all sorts of accounting and political treatment of Bitcoin? All of a sudden, we could have, and this is where I want to see the US succeed. And how do you do that? Well, have Bitcoin as a national imperative for the US, and then start creating policies around the support of it. Now, this probably goes against a lot of what the OGs stood for initially, but I still think the best custodian in the world right now is the US, and I want to see you guys succeed. So what happens if we, for the first time, can harness the political power of the US to create policies, procedures, processes that are actually going to be supportive of Bitcoin and create a financial market like we've seen for the US housing market? The sky's the limit with this, and there's an opportunity in front of us to dream the most outlandish dreams and put that to play.
Listen, I think that's most certainly true. And I see a lot of people that have been around Bitcoin a long time that are starting to look at it that way. I think that we should all be thinking a lot bigger than we've been thinking. Like, irrespective of why it's happening, one, there's a phenomenal wealth growing opportunity here. Whether you have $1 to invest or $1 billion, the multiples are going to be the same. And you can dig your heels in and go, well, I can't buy Bitcoin. That's just being a little baby, okay? What you're saying is, I can't buy whole Bitcoin, so I'm not going to invest in Bitcoin. That would be akin to saying, gosh, I can't buy a whole airline, so I'm never going to fly on a plane. I mean, come on, man. no, if a girlfriend walks into the Four Seasons with you into your $800 room and she asks you if you own the hotel or not, like you might want to cut the date short. You see the insanity of this stuff, man, right? Like, but I have to own my home, man. I absolutely have to own my home. I think all of this shit comes unraveled around Bitcoin. All of it.
Yeah.
And you're looking at the bond guys who couldn't get access to Bitcoin. They're frothing at the mouth, man.
This is what's so spectacular about those converts back to MicroStrategy. I'm like, oh my God, they are going to be drinking from the fire hose. When I just can't wait to see what the next announcement looks like. I think
he gets negative interest, dude. People think he can't get negative interest. Want to bet? I would bet $1 million fucking in the 1 year he has a print minus interest rate. Now, what is he selling calls for? That will be the question. But you are most confused. Like, we're already there, dude. At zero, it shows me this is the greatest collateral on planet Earth. Grant looked at me 2 months ago. I said, bro, how much money have you been able to borrow? And when was the last time it was zero and it had more zeros behind it?
Yeah.
And if you want to man up, let's man up. Otherwise, stay small. Because this cat is going big. And he's like, hey, why would anybody fucking lend zero? I'm like, maybe a company like Citibank's already bloated with 8% risk.
Correct.
Bloated. They're like, I've got so much of this sexy shit. I would really like some zeros that I know it's just going to stay there.
Yeah.
It's a tell. It's a massive tell. But you have to be willing to come in here and look at the whole game and go, whoa, look at who is the strong player at the table? It's Bitcoin.
Well, this is the funny thing, Gary, on that. And this is where talking to TradFi guys, I love talking about risk-free rates of the world, who sets it. You know, everyone tells you it's the Federal Reserve. Oh, what's their rate? It's 4.5. Okay, 4.5. So if someone's got a lower rate than that, that represents a better risk-free return than everyone else, right? Including the Federal Reserve. It's like, yep. And then you drop the 0% coupon on them and tell them, hey, this is zero. So you're telling me that Michael Saylor with MicroStrategy is more risk-free than the Federal Reserve?
Yes.
And you just leave them with it. It's like all of a sudden you just watch the machinations in their head going through the implications of that. And it's like, oh shit, I've just mispriced all of my risk. Now that's something that just breaks the brain of TradFi. And to your point, I think he does get away the negative yield. And this is something I've talked about for probably the last 6 years. People thought I was crazy, but I think within the next 10 years, you as a retail holder of Bitcoin will be able to get paid by the bank to borrow on your Bitcoin. He's just ahead of us. He's 5 years ahead of us.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can see that. They may find this is a lot better to do it this way.
Yeah, I agree. They will.
I mean, we've gone from 0 companies to 180 companies doing. That's who we know. That does not include my brother. My brother went from 0 to now he wants to do $1 billion. There'll be many other people that do the same thing. I mean, I look at insurance. Dude, insurance.
How much money is tied up in there?
Well, imagine hey bro, imagine if you and I were buying life policies for our children. You do it in Bitcoin.
Yep.
Oh, I want my premiums paid in Bitcoin, dude. Like that. Right?
Have you seen that company? Did you have a chat to those boys at Meanwhile, the life insurance company in Bitcoin?
Not yet.
I'll make an intro. Great fellas, but
yeah, not yet.
If you're doing that, then
well, it makes
you want it in Bitcoin.
Well, I mean, those companies should put their coin like they are annuities, dude. Just print money, right? That's how we got
Yep.
around the grant. I'm like, dude, you got 42 properties printing cash. Do a couple and see what happens. And then when you put the chart in, he was like, well, it's going to increase it a little bit. I went, let me model that for you, bro. I mean, like the real estate was great, right? But it's like, it just amplifies the shit out of it. And shortens the tail.
That's the key thing. I was curious if you remember, what was the break-even point where there was more return from the 15% in Bitcoin versus the 85% in property?
That's a good. When do the two buckets match? Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to check on that. I suspect. That's a great question, but I would give it probably one cycle, maybe 5 years.
Yeah,
6 years, maybe 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
And to that point, real estate is volatile. Extremely volatile. Okay, don't tell me an asset's not volatile when you can't live in it because it lost all its power. Don't tell me it's not volatile when it's closed because the street had an earthquake. See, I mean, oh yeah, I got insurance. You do, but you're not using this home. I mean, it's no longer. It's an inefficiency factor now. Okay, I can use my Bitcoin at any time as long as the power's on. I'm not stuck in that investment forever. You remember that house that I sold? I did a big old deal on it down the street. I bought a house for my wife. Well, that house, I paid $1.7 million for it. Had it listed for 2.7, 3 years. Held it for 3 years. Never insured, so I was always a little worried about that. And I had to go over there all the time, fix it, do shit, fix this, fix it. I'm horrible at that stuff. Made no money on it. Took a $300,000 discount, bought $66,600 Bitcoin, just smash bought it. 2.4 million. That was 5 months ago. I've made more money on that house in 5 months than in 3 years. And I drive by that house every day, man. I'm like, I'm so glad I don't own that thing anymore.
Yeah.
I made $1 million, dude, on like $1.7 million on Bitcoin. I'm starting to look at all my assets going, you're a squeaky wheel. I need to get rid of you. Yep. You're a squeaky wheel. I need to get rid of you.
Well, hearing that, it changes the dynamics of the investment outcome dramatically. That, we've had in the last week, I would have talked to at least 3, maybe 5 couples in their 70s who were talking about selling their properties to put in Bitcoin. And I'm not talking small amounts, I'm talking millions of dollars to get out of what they've got to go buy Bitcoin. There is a complete seismic shift in mentality around Bitcoin. I can't put my finger on it. These are clients all over the globe, from the US, UK, Australia, Europe, you name it. There is a change in the air where people are looking at and understanding that I don't want to be owning that because that's a headache. And I want to own the thing that is going to go up the most, the fastest, with the least amount of risk and the least amount of effort. And this is a good thing for, housing affordability, because it's going to put, or at least depressurize that housing market. But to your point about selling the house and getting in the market, you're happy to take a little bit less when you know it's going into this asset, because you know what the expected outcome is. And this is where, particularly in Australia, we're obsessed. It's like a mind virus around property. Everyone has to have property, and it's like the US but on steroids. And there is an anxiety when you're out of the market. You've just sold your home, and people think, "Oh, I've got to be in the market. I've got to." So they sacrifice buying the house they want for something that's going to give them exposure to the number go up technology in the home. And I'm like, this is where Bitcoin totally redefines that, because you sell that home, property, whatever it might be, get it straight into Bitcoin. You don't have to worry. There's no time pressure in the next property purchase because you're holding the best asset there is.
What's your advice to, family that comes to you? They have no Bitcoin. They got a $2 million house they paid cash for. They have a business. They've got some real estate earnings from maybe some passive holdings, some 401ks. I mean, they got an insurance policy. They got their health, but they're totally invested in TradFi. How do you move them? I mean, I know how I do it, but how do you get a family to go, hey, look, even at 70, I mean, let's pretend I was 80 years old. That's a monster smash in 6 months, man. If I could do that in and there's a time to do this. Like me taking 300 grand off that house, I knew what I was doing. Dude, this house isn't moving. I'm dumping the motherfucker. I don't care what. And I want to go into Bitcoin right now. Yep. That might not be true in 3 years. It might not be so obvious, right? I actually think it probably will be. But what would you recommend to people? I mean, 70 years old, why are they holding on to any of this stuff? Should be moving it aggressively, I would have thought.
I think I come at it from two different angles. The first is at 70 or 80, you're really not investing for yourself. That's really right. About what you're leaving the kids.
Correct.
And the conversations I've been having with, the clients who are sort of 70 years of age and plus is none of your kids want to own the properties that you're going to leave them. So why are you holding on to them? Get rid of them and go buy Bitcoin. That will outperform any property that you're going to leave to them. And I'm pretty certain that the kids are going to want Bitcoin over the property that you're holding now, and they're going to get more Bitcoin the sooner you do it. So that's one way, I think, to get people motivated to do that. Once they know that they're taken care of, obviously all of their needs for the end of time have basically been taken care of and they're at no risk for themselves, then you need to have the conversation around, well, who's that money really for and what do they want? And then explain in terms that they understand that this is what that next generation wants. And this is where, say, from an investment advice perspective, I'm really lucky to straddle the generations that most of my clients are baby boomers, yet I'm probably 40, 45, 46 years of age, where I understand what the children want because I'm probably closer to their age than the parents. But doing this for 25 years, have an understanding or some gravitas around how to make investment decisions that are going to deliver long-term outperformance. So that gets me a level of trust with clients and the ability to move the needle with people who are stuck on the fence. So I have a significant degree of success with older clients in de-risking that for them, because there's a lot of pitfalls that you need to avoid, that you want. Obviously you want the asset, but everyone's heard of FTX, Luna, Celsius, BlockFi, you name it. Everyone's got a story of someone getting ripped off or a phishing attack, you name it. So if you can strip away the investment opportunity from all of those minefields of 100% loss, then you've got a chance to move them forward into an allocation. And then this is where I'm trying to move clients into allocations of 10, 20, 30, 40%, whatever they can sleep at night with. And typically I try and start around 10%. And once there's usually pushback on that, most people don't want to put 10% to work. So we settle on 5. We discussed that it could drop 50% tomorrow, in which case I'm going to come back and ask for the additional 5 that you didn't put in to start with. And then we can start building that. And one of the greatest successes that I had with a client was they were sadly, they passed away a few years ago. They had, when they passed 60%, they passed away at the age of 88. They passed away with over 60% allocated to Bitcoin of their investable assets. I was so proud of that. I couldn't tell you how happy I was. And when I spoke to the kids about, hey, look, doing a fiduciary duty of, an advisor, what we have to do is obviously, reallocate or at least have the discussion around rebalancing the portfolio. When I discussed with the kids, hey, we're heavily allocated to Bitcoin, just want to make sure you're okay with it, or should we, rebalance?
Let's go!
Both of the kids said, no, we're good, leave that as is. So I was thrilled with the outcome, and they've been thrilled with the outcome too, because the price has probably tripled since they said, no, just leave it.
truly a remarkable opportunity, man. It really is. Uh, the way I did it was, or one of the ways I went to my sister. In fact, you made the point. Hey, look, they don't really care about themselves. I went to my sister and like she got, I don't know, $3, $4, $5 million, something like that. I said, first off, what are you invested in? Like not knowing what they're invested in is a mistake. Secondly, then, hey, when you leave, what's going to happen to all this stuff? Like when you blow out of here, like, what do you want me to do? And she's like, well, I got this. I mean, and then you kind of walk her into like, this is all probably going to go away unless you're going to go and be a 75-year-old gigolo and start partying, which by the way, man, if you got the energy, and no dependents, go have some fun, man. Get on a private jet, go get laid, gamble, do whatever. But if you're not going to do that, and this is literally, I said, look, who are you leaving this for? It's going to either end up being my brother's kids or my kids. And once I knew where she was going, I'm like, dude, my kids don't want your fucking tobacco stock that's making a 4% yield and losing value like 30% every 5 years. And by the way, you don't even smoke anymore. My mom gave you this tip 30 years ago when it was cool.
Yeah.
That investment, now I'm family, right? And I know all of that money is going to go to my children. I hope my kids don't see this. I basically went to her and said, look, I guarantee you the price of Altria forever and your 4% yield. Just move it all to Bitcoin, please. But I'll guarantee it. This is to my point, like your clients, this is so cool that Microstrategy is shown up to the table because the amount of tools we have now. For instance, I don't still own enough Bitcoin. I am a natural person to sell to your family an insurance policy. Ma'am, buy it at 100 grand. Mr. Cardone is going to sell you an $80,000 or an $85,000 insurance policy. If it ever hits 85, you can give it to Cardone. And you buy some insurance and okay, they're protected. I know people that will buy the hell out of that.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a perfect product for me to offer that out because I still need more Bitcoin. I have a goal. All these tools, man, all these tools are going to be out there and be available. I mean, the volume of options trading on MicroStrategy is staggering.
Yeah.
That is not normal. Okay. For those that don't know, it's sucking up monster amounts of liquidity. I mean, they're deep. Like you can go out 2 years. I've never seen option pools like I can pull off $1 million option stream and not even mess with the term. Like nothing moves.
Yep.
I've never seen a market. Have you ever seen a market where there's 9 desires to buy calls versus 1 to buy puts?
Never.
Bruh,
Nope.
ever.
No.
I have never seen that phenomenon.
No, and not the depth of the market for the market cap is insane.
It's crazy.
That's what I guess the risk guys in the world, your risk managers, once they understand this and see this happening, all of a sudden the products that are going to get created on the back of it, like the income products and the rest of it, that are going to be perceived as risk-free, and I sort of use that in inverted commas because I know that the connotations of it, it will completely redefine finance. And this is where, we're basically bringing degen crypto trading to TradFi markets. And I use that term loosely, but those financialized products that are going to come out on the back of the options and the depth of the options, those markets are only going to continue to grow. We haven't seen anything. What happens when MicroStrategy 30x's, 50x's from here, and that options market builds out and becomes 10x bigger? And this is where a lot of people
30x. Now that's a big number. 30x.
Not really. Not
That's
in real
30
terms.
trillion, man.
No, 30x from here on MicroStrategy. is a $3 trillion market cap. Sorry.
Oh, excuse me. Oh, I could see 3 trillion. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, we're only at Microsoft and Nvidia's size, but the options market on that will probably be 10x bigger than their market and 10x what it is now, if not more. So all of a sudden, this is just going to suck up a whole host of liquidity.
You know, I think the market might let the guy get to 1 million Bitcoin. No one's stopping him.
Yep. And it's just a free for all. And this is where I think what will end up happening, and this is something that I believe will be of a national interest to everyone. Every domestic market that has a stock market will have a self-appointed MicroStrategy in the private market. So to me, MicroStrategy represents the US's Bitcoin Strategic Reserve private collection. There'll be a government collection too. Every country will have their self-appointed or self-anointed domestic company, which is going to grow to be the largest company in the market. They're going to do exactly what Saylor's done. You've seen Japan has inadvertently anointed Dylan's company with Metaplanet as the company that's going to do it.
Oh,
the
wow.
Australian stock market's will have one that does it. You'll have the UK do one, and it'll be of national importance.
Interesting.
So,
do you think that, the conspiracies run very thick in the Bitcoin world? Now the maxis are like, okay, see, the government's going to go buy Bitcoin. They're going to own all the Bitcoin.
They could try.
These are the two great risks in Bitcoin. Quantum computing is going to attack Bitcoin before it attacks everything else tomorrow morning. Okay. The second one is Michael Saylor, who's gone out of his way to be nice, transparent, has done more goodwill work around the world for Bitcoin. And now he's going to turn into a government CIA agent and destroy Bitcoin. It is hilarious to me. If this is my concern, I do not own enough Bitcoin.
Correct. If that's the best you've got, no way. Like,
oh, wow.
Really?
The buyer of last resort is the United States government. Can I buy some more MicroStrategy outside the free market hours? I mean, it's ridiculous.
So here's the funny thing on that. And I had this conversation with Punter Jeff and Raekwon, where if I walk through the game theory of that, you're going to see the US government turn around and basically assume those shares of MicroStrategy and take the underlying. So what's going to happen there? They are going to have to pay overs for that. They'll just print whatever they have to. If it's $1 trillion, $2 trillion, 10 trillion, whatever the number is, 2x your money, here it is, go and take it. Now, for you who holds the underlying, you don't care. You've just been paid double what your shares are worth to go and buy Bitcoin at spot. Now, what happens with that type of squeeze when $1 trillion, $2 trillion of money comes into the market because every shareholder of MicroStrategy's just been liquidated and been given cash, now beat it, that's our Bitcoin. They've got to now go and reallocate. But you've already got a Bitcoin stash, so you don't care. It's just going to double or quadruple the price overnight.
I don't know why everybody doesn't make all these bets. You bet on every one of the. Look, it's not a different table. See, this is very different.
Correct.
I'm not a venture capital guy. Venture capital guy, they put $100 million to work, and they got 100 different squares here. Their companies in different fields. They're all leveraged. I don't want that, dude. I found King Kong. Yeah. Found the most gorgeous tribe of women in the world. I'm going to invest in everything that's in this feeding stock, man. It's pure. It's perfect. It hasn't been adulterated. And it's attracting money that's getting better. That money that's coming in the system is improving. See, that is symbiotic. And it's very, very, very unusual that you would have this. I have heard this word flywheel effect my whole career. And every time I've heard it, I did this. In my mind, I'm like, oh, yeah, the old flywheel effect, man. Yeah, I'm going to make. Seriously. Okay?
Yeah.
Seriously, this thing is a perpetual. It's a perpetual energy machine, man.
I agree.
Every molecule that comes into it goes out and it's supercharged. It's
One thing I
hard.
find it's mind blowing, but you'll know this. Like, when you're allocating to venture capital or private equity, you've got to deal with that J curve. And it's like, oh, yeah, okay, so we're investing for 7 years. We're locked up for 7 to 10. We know we're going to have negative returns for the next 2 years. And then we're going to be on the up and it's going to outperform, traditional investments. Like, Michael Saylor raises on Monday, buys on Tuesday, capital's allocated, no J curve, instant investment, and you're away. I look at this and think, oh my goodness, there are so many industries that are going to be disrupted once they understand the efficiency with which he's operating.
Oh, dude, the efficiency it's scary. I mean, you see this and it's okay. Every miner has to do this or they're out of the game.
Yep.
I mean, this argument over the model, listen to all these quant guys, all these really smart guys, all these modelers, the Stanford guys, man, hey, it's bullshit. And then they're buying it like gangsters. It's so simple to me, dude. Like, I have a bad business model. I have a bad idea. Someone gives me zero cost of capital, I'll win. Okay. It's literally about how much fuel you have in your tank and how much it costs you. It's not about what your idea is. Jesus, man. If you can borrow that much money and to buy access to monopoly, like, I don't even care about the number. The number is not important to me right now. I just know I want on that train. This is a monopoly, no DOJ exposure, asset that pretty much can't be messed with. And I don't see any end to this cheap money.
No, you raise a really good point there that I haven't heard anyone talk about, i.e. cost of capital. You have the lowest cost of capital, you win. And this is where, remember in the early days with Amazon, no one really understood what they were doing and they never made any money, yet they had the cheapest cost of capital. Remember that? They had the highest
Google,
PE ratio.
They all became monster monopolies because of cost of money, dude. These people were not that smart. They bought everything.
Yep.
And they had cost of capital of zero.
Correct. So they could outcompete everyone. And this is where, say, to bring this back to TradFi and say, property guys, I look at this and think, if you're in property and you're not allocating to Bitcoin, you are at a severe disadvantage to anyone who is, because that whole property game is built on cost of capital. So if you don't have, and I believe Bitcoin will give you the cheapest cost of capital, and Saylor's proving it out, if you don't have access to the cheapest cost of capital, all of a sudden your business is no longer competitive. You can't compete with that. You're gone. And this is where Amazon is probably the perfect example, completely misunderstood until it was glaringly obvious what they were doing with that cheap cost of capital. They were just reinvesting and buying everything, and all of a sudden they win, because they're not winning on outperforming everything, although they were able to do that too. They were winning because they had cheap cost of capital and could buy everything else cheaper than anyone and fund it. And it's the akin to Scott Galloway's analogy of, we're going snorkeling and the competition is who can stay down the longest and dive the deepest. You've got a snorkel and I've got a 3-hour oxygen tank on my back. Who's going to win that?
Yeah.
No brainer.
No brainer. Absolute no brainer. Let's start wrapping up. Microstrategy closed at 408. Been bouncing between. I bought some at 365 2 days ago, man. Seriously, 10%. This market is the most unbelievable market. If you have some advisors around you, I would really encourage people, like, this is a really interesting game. You can get confused, but quite frankly, it's very simple, man.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that complicated. Like for me, I see the token market, this, circus. This has become under massive threat now because of MicroStrategy.
Yep.
Why you guys are trading tokens when you can buy a refiner, Bitcoin, smartest guy on the block. I got a party invite to him. He clearly is not an idiot because he likes me. It's really, really, really hard for me, if you really think about it, that every business, I've been doing this my whole life, it is simply a cost of capital. Like I've always funded my own businesses. And I'm like, wow, if Node 40 had zero cost of capital, well, gosh. Like anybody that has free cost of capital, I'll build a business. I'll guarantee you a 10% yield over 10 years and guarantee it with my life. I'll take 1 day free. I'll take 1 day zero cost of capital. I'll take 30-year. I'll take on Sundays, I have to stand on my head and put my head in the toilet. Like whatever you need me to do to not breach the governance, literally I will do anything except hurt someone for zero cost of capital. Probably do it for 2% and he's going to get negative, man.
Yes, he is.
I don't know why that would shock everyone. Why would it shock everyone? We're at zero in a non-ZERP world.
Well, the question is, does he issue at zero until he gets the premium down to zero? Or does he issue negative and have the premium expand a little bit? I guess that's the decision that he's going to make. And I think
does it really matter to him? Does it really matter? Because he can sell the call.
It doesn't matter.
Sell the call anyway.
It doesn't matter to him, but it matters to who's buying the convert. And it's insurance companies. You know, Allianz has started. They're going to lead the charge for the insurance companies. The reinsurance companies, what are they going to do when they figure this out?
AIG's not even here, man. AIG makes Alliance look like a little, right? Is AIG bigger? I think so.
It'd have to be. Yeah. So
when they get their hands on this stuff, oh my God. AIG was trading nat gas like they were insane.
Yeah. So these guys are going to throw so much money at him, he's not going to know what to do with it. I just don't know if he can print a negative on it and have them buy it just on principle. They might need to save face and say, look, at zero, we're not paying you to take our money. He's
getting it back somewhere.
Yeah, true.
So I think it will happen. But it's not really relevant. Zero and negative, it's all the same.
Doesn't matter. Yep. It's already
1%. Like I'll borrow $100 million right now at 4.5% for 10 years. I wouldn't think twice about it.
As long as there's no call between now and the day you've got to deliver, that's fine, right?
No, well, that's what I say. 10 years. And I know when I have to mature, I'm not going to do that at 12 and 15. No. And I think that the wallet business that's trying to do lending, that business, I think the volume should increase, but they have to bring these rates down, man. This is a disconnect when you have a guy holding 100 Bitcoin in a wallet and then he's got to borrow at 12% when I got Alliance offering zero. You know what I'm saying? This is way messed up.
Yeah, but that's a function of the fact that we've had a very, very hostile regulatory regime. That all changes. Yeah. And the cost of capital, I think that'll be rewarded. That'll be integrated in the banking system. Then we have that cost of capital. You know, the rates on loans is going to come down dramatically because, you know, the people I speak to over here, they're, you know, Standard Chartered and others are basically looking at creating their own custody solutions because they're not happy with everything else, which is the first step in being able to build out the lending on the back of it. It all comes. It's just now that there's regulatory confirmation that, hey, you're allowed to do this and we're not going to try and, you know, screw you over or undermine you or take you to court or put you in jail. All that comes really quickly, I think. Like next 2 to 3 years will be a different world. Yeah,
I think 3 years will be. I think I think everyone's still underestimating speed now. I think this thing is on hyper velocity. Give me a price, if you would, sir, for end of the year, December 13th. Right now, 18 days from now. Santa Claus is coming on.
125 to 130.
Oh, I love that. That's my number, man. 125. I think 125 is a good number. We're at 101, 102. Any chance you're going to be in Miami on December the 31st?
Sadly, no. We're in Sydney, but next year I'll be in the US a lot more, so I'm planning on stopping by to say good day and have a catch up with you in person.
Yeah. Well, I'll make sure. The reason I said Miami, there's a little party going on down there that should be in apps. It's going to be the party of the year.
Right. Okay.
Can you imagine at 125 what that party's going to be like?
Off the charts.
Bruh.
Yeah.
It'll be in. People are going, hey, the inauguration. I'm like, screw the inauguration. I'm going to Saylor's party. In fact, I was going to go to. Are you going to Dubai for the roundtable thing, February?
I hadn't planned on it, but I do need to head that way at some point. So
I was talking to Jeff about going, and then but I'm having a whole thing here, business thing in Tampa, so I can't go. But I was like, Jeff, you really want to go that far? It's 20 hours, man. 20 hours, a long time. But we are going to see you in Vegas, though, in May.
There's a good chance I'll be in Vegas.
No. Hey, audience, okay, stop following this cat. If it's a good chance, you bring your wife. You're going to be a lot freaking richer than you are. Go book your damn hotel right now, young man. And I need to see you in Vegas. Have a drink, big steak. This is going to be this is our year, man. That's worth the trip. Yeah. It's going to be much bigger than Nashville, man.
I agree.
Much bigger. And you need to just come hang out for a couple of weeks. Plus, Jeff's right down the road from you. Hang out in Cali with him for a little bit.
Yep.
Take the whole family out for a month or two.
That
live life,
like
my man.
Idea.
Yeah, exactly, bro. Come see me. We'll get you hooked up. Peter, where should people follow you? And we're going to wish you a good Saturday and say goodbye to you.
You know what? The easiest place to catch me is on X. It's Peter BTC Advisor there, or alternatively, you can email me or check out my website, www.thebitcoinadvisor.com, and that's advisor with an ER. If you're curious about Bitcoin, haven't bought any, or want that secured for generational wealth to make sure you're not going to lose it, please hit us up and let us help.
Yeah, and if you have bought Bitcoin and you're being teased by me on a regular basis, call Peter up and go, hey, why is Gary saying I'm not allocated enough? And he'll walk you through it better than I can. Peter, dude, I love you to death, man. Thank you so much. Please tell your wife that you are instructed to be in Vegas in May, man. It's too big of a deal, okay? I know you have to travel a long way, but it'll be fun, a couple of months. I'll be working on Jeff about it. Really wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. My hope is, and I wanted to do this before this week, I think the market's getting ready to explode, and I had a feeling you were going to say 120, 125, 130. You heard it here, right here, okay? PD says 125, 130 end of the year. Best investment, risk-adjusted opportunity that he's ever seen in his 42 years. Peter, thank you very much, man.
Thanks very much. Appreciate you, Gary.
Appreciate that. Ciao. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Okay, guys. He is an awesome human being. Really, really appreciate him. You guys follow him, okay? He's has become. This is why I keep talking so fondly about Bitcoin. He and I probably met a year and a half, 2 years ago max. Had a couple of good conversations just like this. Then I met him in person. He has been consistent, kind, understanding, fun. He allows me to be a little crazy. I think he actually likes that about, the Americans. He has most certainly been one of the greatest American cheerleaders, including Americans. And I mean, I cannot tell you how many times he's called me and said, hey, like when I did the donation to Trump even, he was really appreciative. I was having people bang on me about it. And Peter was mature enough to go, hey, that's a good move, man. That's smart that we have a vote. So anyway, he's awesome. He's in Australia and he's well connected with serious players around the world and in America. So you guys most certainly follow him. I'm blessed to have him in my life. Guys, see you Sunday morning, 10:30 a.m. Eastern. I'll be doing church with Gary, and you'll probably see me on Spaces. I'm very excited about the next week. Got some bad news in my family about an illness, but that happens. But I am most certainly excited about the next 14 days. This thesis is playing out perfectly. I hope you got on this train. If you didn't get on the train, you should just write down, do some writing. Hey, what's stopping me from getting off of zero? And I don't really care if it's $100, $1,000. And if you need to work harder, then you need to work harder. I know very, very few people that do more than 40 hours a week. And if you're one of those people, understand you're going to get crushed. You're going to absolutely get slaughtered because you don't have the discipline to work 100 hours. And the computer, the programs, the bots, and guys like me, we're going to work like machines because it's a game for us. And that's the problem. If you can find something that you really, really, really love to do, it then becomes like, oh, wow, this cat's going fishing and I'm grinding. I'm laughing the whole time, man. So, smashing the water, not catching everything. I'm laughing. Why? Because I know that I just got my time off just a little bit. I need to hang around and keep feeding the system until I get a hookup. All right, guys. Love you lots. Thanks a lot and be good. Most certainly you have to do something nice for someone in the next 12 hours, okay? So it's 6 p.m. By 6 a.m. in the morning, you got to do something magical. So if you guys are going out to the bars, be nice to somebody, okay? Do something nice. Leave a big smashing tip and appreciate another human being. All right, guys. Enjoy.